doing the video today because because there's some things going on right underneath, right underneath our noses. Um, Now I can't say it's everywhere in the country or the state, um, but I can say, at least in a couple of cities where we've been, I've seen this go on. Now this is a comprehensive way of targeting people and just destroying their life. Destroying their life. There's elements of civil rights violations, stalking, we'll say witness tampering. We could also say putting people in a situation where things could be used to manipulate them. People are entrapped. And none of this involves the government or municipalities. Now, what happens is people will try to mess with people financially, getting them fired, or preventing them from getting a job by, whatever they can do, go into a place and say, hey, somebody applied, they're blah, 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 bad person, or they have a job waiting for them. They just have to do blah, 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 things like this. Or, yeah, this person is being investigated for blah, blah, blah. Or, yeah, this person was in jail or whatever. Whatever they can to prevent somebody from getting the job or to get them fired. And then, if somebody is on benefits, they go on unemployment or welfare benefits, they will try to interfere with that electronically, whether they're hacking somebody and messing up the application, or, finding some way to get it denied by maybe, going in and saying to unemployment agency, oh yeah, it wasn't a real job. Actually, it was somebody was giving somebody money to be trained for a job, and the money ended. Anything they could do. Or if somebody is on, some kind of welfare benefit, try to do anything they can do to keep it as little as possible, and to even try to mess with that. So now we have a financial component of people basically being financially imprisoned. And while that's going on, they will simulate the heck out of them. All it takes is one simulator to interfere with people through their phones, through their, in some cases, through their internet. All it takes is one simulator, and vast majority of technology out there, all they have to do is be within a couple of miles of them. So, they could be anywhere. And they can follow them around as well when they're mobile. That's pretty easy. We've experienced that. But these videos are to help others. And, all it takes is a text. It's easy when you live like a quarter of a mile back from the road and there's no gates or whatever, from your complex to get to the highway. So you're walking through the complex. People can text each other. And then people will be there when you get on the bus or when you get to your rides place, or if you have a car. Well, that's pretty easy when people see you get in your car. And your car may or may not start. I've found, at least in Saginaw County, there's certain tricks. I don't know the meaning, but sometimes I've seen you leave your hood popped open, or other times it's a passenger or driver's side front or even back window that's left open just a little bit, and people don't destroy your car. Or you're part of certain groups and people won't mess with your car. But the worst thing that I've seen, at least in Saginaw County, is if you have a hubcap, one hubcap that's a different color, or if it's one of those backup tires. If you have a car that looks like that, then your car will be vandalized the heck out of. That's what I've seen. And we experienced that too. It's a pattern. What does it mean? I have no idea. But usually, most of the time though, it's the different colored hubcap, or different wheel cover. And once in a while, it's the inflated tire type thing or the spare tire type thing. But at least in Saginaw County, these are bad signs. Your car will be vandalized the heck out of. So they'll find any way they can to mess with your transportation. If you come into Saginaw and you take the bus, you may encounter certain people on your buses, sometimes 2 or 3 times, in a trip. Certain people that will come up on the bus, and you'll see them many times. Or if you're on the bus and you go to a store or such, you may see a vehicle with certain plates keeps showing up everywhere you go. You'll see that too. And then sometimes you may realize when you're walking around your complex that some of those vehicles that were following you were from your complex. Like I said, this channel is no longer just about our situation, but it's to help others. But we've seen it more than once. People from our complexes show up. This is another thing that you'll find if you're applying for another place. When you go to that place, you may find that many of the cars from your complex will show up that they're looking for a place, same place you are, even if it's outside the city, even outside the county. You'll see your neighbors coincidentally just applied to the same place you did. And sometimes they'll take it when, even when you had landlords or apartment managers saying, yeah, I got your application that you did online, and we're going to try to reserve a place for you. You just got to get in and give that deposit. And then mysteriously, your neighbors will take that place right out from underneath you. And sometimes this will happen with jobs too. You'll have a job earmarked for you. Like, for example, with the VA, because you're a veteran, and you talk to the hiring manager several times. You're just getting all your paperwork together and everything over the course of a couple of weeks. And then the job is pretty much yours. They can't say it officially, but you're, very aggressive, and you've done everything that has to be done. You're just getting all your stuff together because it's an appointee job. It's a temporary appointment, which for the VA is a way in the door. And then come to find out, somebody that just walked in with everything that's ready, and they just happen to be a disabled veteran. So they have just a couple more points than you do. Don't ask me, I guess they would have been down to a couple of points because a combat deployed veteran and a disabled veteran, there's only a few points difference between us. But this person that took your job. And so this is what continually happens. And they will repeatedly post your, everything that you're doing, the places you're going. They will interfere with your schooling online, hacking, everything. They'll interfere with your children's schooling online. Sometimes right while they're in class with their fellow students and their teacher. Some of this is happening. Oh yeah, then you'll have your phony jobs. Jobs that everything, it's so convincing. They may even be online jobs, which are very flexible and allow you to spend more time with your family. And they also make you not so daycare dependent. But they're not really jobs. They may seem like they're on a great platform and everything. Online contact center or call center work or online reservation type stuff. But then when you really, really evaluate things and you really, really look for, concrete, proof that this is legitimate, you can't get it. You can't even get a person to show their face to talk to you. Everything is done through text or email or voicemail. So it seems nothing more than maybe than somebody's ploy to make people think it was a legitimate company, or if they require a little bit to start a fund so that you can get involved in doing various jobs. They seem like nothing more than common gambling, legalized gambling, and or a pay to work type thing. So these are some of the ways, and they'll try to hook you into anything, even online. Like I said, like set you up illegal gambling, or have you access your email when they've sent you files that are destructive to your computer, and they'll repeatedly do it, and they'll change the emails when you block them. or try to push you restricted websites, or try to have you, um, click links and stuff, phishing, um, maybe to do a survey or sign a petition or something, but it's actually not. It's a phishing scam, and you block them, save stuff. They just change the email address it's coming from. Some of this stuff is illegal. Let's see. Oh, and then, by the way, everything you do online under your IP doesn't mean you did it. It's under your IP. People could be mirroring your IP. They could have you on a simulator, so they actually assign you an IP, but the true IP is their simulator. And they post everything. And they post your IP address. They post sites you've seen or haven't seen. Again, they post the IP addresses of your children's online schools. They post your physical address, your email address, your usernames, your passwords, your telephone number, your social security number. Did I say your physical address? And the physical address of your children's school. Have I left anything out? Everything about you they will post online. And keep in mind, some of this stuff is true, some of it's not. But the point is, it's everything about you. Even if an email address is off by 1 or 2 characters because somebody screwed up, still, the intention's the same thing. So this is what they do to slowly destroy someone. And, they have you financially captive. They have your comms captive, your communications fully captive. They will try to grab you into anything illegal, whether online or in person. Oh yeah, then you can't forget the matter of that. They'll have lots of sex workers around you. Sometimes even coming right to your house, hanging out around your house. That's another thing they'll do. Or they'll have people that are selling or doing rock, molly around you, maybe even in your building. Again, selling and or using. And anything they can while you're captive financially and while you're captive comms-wise. And then the other thing they try to do is limit, let's say you have a voucher Section 8 or something like that, they will try to limit where you can go. They'll try to make sure you can't get into any place like a duplex or a single tenant home or a, let's see, what else? Duplex or a single tenant home or a trailer, a mobile home. They'll try to make sure you never get money, again, because you're not your comms, financially, you're captive, so you can't get a motorhome or a camper or RV, nothing like that. Oh yeah, because another thing they'll do is try to set you up to get your credit ruined. They'll try to find one way or another. Now, if you have credit debt and you're financially captive, well, you can guarantee that's going to ruin your credit. Guarantee you're not going to be able to shoulder the debt. So your credit score will slowly drop. Or they'll set you up. I don't like to focus on us, but on different methods that people have used to target us. But my situation, a HUD-VASH social worker, who now they say has been terminated, so they won't even listen to anything or even discuss it. Oh, she no longer works here. which is common. That's another thing. I get a lot of people that will get their name changed, or they'll start going under a different name or a different email address or a different ID badge, but sometimes it's the same person. Or if push comes to shove, they'll just fire them, and nobody will address the abuse that happened to you or your family because that person is no longer here. But yet your family receives no corrective measures, no restorative justice, no reparations, nothing. So in our case, the HUD-VASH worker, because a second party agency kind of dropped the ball for a while with our situation. We were homeless while in a homeless program because my apartment was rented underneath of us. And you got to give your notice and all of that, but tentative. But again, according to the law, if you give that notice, they can rent your place. And the building, the complex that we were in, rarely hits 80% tenancy. Rarely. Well, our apartment was rented underneath of us. Even in our building, there was at least one or two apartments. Matter of fact, in half of the buildings, quarter to a half, there was one or two apartments. How do I know? Because I also did their census. So I worked for census in 2020. So, matter of fact, that the whole entire neighborhood, the whole side of town that we've been, repeatedly pushed to, that was my area for census. So I know quite a bit about this side of town, all the dirt, all the hidden apartments, all the places that where people are staying to hide, all the places that people can hang out during the summer, but they have the meters pulled, everything. And so anyway, so she advised me, just use your, you got money in savings, right? Yeah. I had almost $900 in savings. And she said, well, you have, how much you have in credit cards? I'm like, well, if I put everything together, the total's probably around a couple of grand in credit and maybe another grand in credit lines. She's like, well, for now, just use all that and we'll get this sorted out and we'll reimburse you. I'm like, oh, okay. She's like, yeah, just let me know when it's gone. I'm like, that comment, I was like, okay. See, but if you ask to talk to the supervisor, they'll get aggressive and they'll threaten you. And so I did. And, this is also during an identity theft, making it even more complex because we don't know what charges on those accounts are mine. Some of these accounts, that dashboards were hacked, so I couldn't log in and get statements anymore. So all of this is going on at the same time. And so, which is pretty easy when you're on a hotel network, when there's a lot of people from your previous complex and from the one you're eventually going to move into that are also there in the hotel, which is in a different county. But they seem to have followed you there. And so in the end, everything was used up, and we're financially captive still because of this situation. Oh, because of some maliciousness from people that were in the county where we were, who happened to be going to the same school. They created a lot of trouble about graduate student stipends. You're getting money back for your student loans, your scholarships, your grants. So the school didn't want to do that for you. They wouldn't discuss whether this was a policy that was in place for other people. They just said it wasn't for you. So eventually you decide to disenroll from this school, which is where you're supposed to be doing your PhD. All of this happened, boom, right at the last minute. And so you dropped out of that program and you focused on, another grad program that you were finishing up. And but when you dropped out of that one school, you'd barely even finished one class because of everything that was going on, regarding your situation. Even though it's the same situation for TAs, it's the same. But a TA is a teaching assistant. You help the masters and doctoral degreed profs. I mean, I wasn't a TA, but the situation I was in was exactly like a TA. But anyway, so that stopped. And you finished up at the school where you were. But by the time you finished up at the school where you were, because again, we were financially captive, my credit tanked. All of that stuff went delinquent within the same 6 months. And then I had to, thank God though, I finished the program I was in, but I could no longer take out loans anymore. Because, independent students, your graduate loans, if you have bad credit, your loans will be denied. And so right now there's about 5 different delinquencies that are preventing me from getting my PhD. And the interesting thing is, several of these delinquencies, they keep reselling the debt every year. That way it continues. Because the rule for the Department of Education is, if you have a delinquency within 2 years, you'll be denied. But if it's outside of 2 years, then, they have situations where you can work around it by proving it's an old debt, or, interestingly enough, if you're a victim of identity theft, it's still held against you if it's within those 2 years. But anyway, so I had to drop out of grad school. But at least I finished all my programs. But, oh yeah, and for another, I actually applied at one of my alma mater for a PhD program. And because somebody has a connection to Saginaw County at that school, they give a negative recommendation. They said, oh no, you haven't worked in force protection or intelligence long enough, and even though you have, it hasn't been in a managerial role. You've been an investigator, or somebody at a gate or a tower or in a control room, but you're not a manager. And you definitely have no policy experience. So he didn't deny me, but are you going to apply when it's $100 application fee, when the chair of the department discouraged, now mind you, discouraged not just you, but sent a message to the admissions board. Once again, follow the patterns, follow the connections. So I didn't apply to that, even though I've been at that school for 4 years, 3 years, multiple degrees. But because that one person, so it wasn't even a veteran, managed to be a Department of Navy and Department of Homeland Security civilian for 20 years. But so my school was done. You always see the pattern, something arising out of this part of Michigan. But that's our story, but there's others with more stories than us. But anyway, so basically every single aspect of your life is controlled. And, even when you're homeless, you're put somewhere where you are absolutely controlled. Now, when we had a disagreement with my stepmother over religion, she didn't want me active in anything related to Catholicism. Or even, I've worked with Orthodox before, doing different assistance roles. And, that was different. That was because there's no Eastern Catholic presence in the country where I was. There's nothing. But the whole plan was to have an Eastern Catholic, little chapel started up or something. Now I had to be careful because I was on a tourist visa, but I could have an assistive role. But we just couldn't find the right people who could do something like that and approve it. But anyway, so she was against any of that. And, yes, I was, disrobed as a deacon not because of conduct, but because I remarried. And, it's up to the bishop. There's complications there, but ultimately they can say, okay, this is your second marriage, that's fine. I know the situation of the first, or, even a third, because, I see it. One was a civil marriage, and the second was annulled. We'll just proceed with caution. The bishop has those options. But technically, a non-canonical marriage is non-canonical. But anyway, so I was disrobed because of that. Even though technically on paper I've only been married once. But, technically twice. But the second one, we never filed anything. It was rushed. I had other things that I had to register to dissolve the marriage, my first marriage there. So we were waiting while all the legal stuff caught up. It's still legitimate, but unfortunately, she moved on with somebody with connections again to mid-Michigan. So she's happy that, all of the annulments and divorces and all the other stuff and the litigation was never started. Well, at least there. It was in my country, not there. But it's complicated. You have to know the rules of that country that are regarding foreigners, and I'm not going to talk about it here. It's too complicated. But foreigners have certain rights that they're afforded in this country, whereas residents have to take a different route to do things regarding marital status. But so you actually, I don't even know how I got into the topic of marriage. But anyway, so you're kept captive in many, many different ways, and you just can't move forward, and you're sabotaged in many different ways because you're kept captive, and it may affect your relationship with your children. Definitely in a situation where your children are in a country with a high presence of human trafficking, and they have mothers who have a history of that, being involved in that. So now you're being held captive. And this is another way that people humiliate you too. They'll say, oh, Can't even send money for your kids, huh? Can barely pay your electric bill. And then other people who are the most cruel and most, they don't care about truth, not at all. But they'll say, oh yeah, deadbeat dad. They don't care about the fact that what's happening to your family, how you're being kept financially captive. And you'll bring up, well, look at the history, you know. There's always financial support for your children there. The ones that we know where they are. One of my children, and I'm not alone, it's common in some um, foreign countries, especially in the Far East, where children will disappear. And because it's, these are high human trafficking areas. And one of my children has been disappeared now for 11 years. We don't know where she is. We used to be able to track her because her mother moves her from family to family while she gallivants around the globe, doing everything from teaching to domestic helper type work, and moves my daughter from her family member to family member. Whatever her boyfriend is, one of a couple of guys, she'll be moved around with his family because, the law in this country is if the mother is not there and the father arrives, of course you got to go through an interview with social workers, but once that's done, and the social workers give the report to immigration, the father can take his daughter or his son, take them and leave. So she's moved her around from place to place to place to place. Because my promise when I found out about her cheating, about her lying, about, monies that I gave to her while my child is being cared for by somebody that barely even speaks English, I said I will go and get her and make sure that she's treated right and not made to live a life like that. She says, oh, she's in a great school. Well, that means nothing. All that means is she's going to speak English better, and she's going to dress nicer, and she'll have some kind of a talent still. It doesn't change anything. Yeah, she's going to look like she's made it. Oh, yeah, she's a successful, family. But in reality, she's just at risk as anybody else in this area of the world. And so this is the situation for my children. But so that, people use that against me like I had a choice in it. But history shows that they're always well cared for financially before people started targeting us. Very well cared for. And, so these when people are targeted, it can have far-reaching effects to an entire family. And they keep you captive every possible way they can. And they will try to get you into trouble any possible way they can. And they will keep you lonely. They will turn people against you. And they will try to make you and whoever's living with you as miserable as possible. And they will use your housing situation, like the voucher or Section 8. They will weaponize that by moving people around you who will bully you, but who will point the finger at you. And then I've said in another video, they will use various legal protections for victims to protect the perpetrators. And all the while, the offices where, these complexes are, they'll have high turnover, and some of them may be friends with the perpetrators. This is just absolutely putting people through hell. And when you do videos, or you write letters, or you post in a blog, people will live around you who will hit the walls of your place. They will knock on your windows with billiard balls. They will knock on your doors with billiard balls. You know the sound when you play pool. in high school. You know the sound of a billiard ball, just to try to intimidate you. Or they will find ways to hit the floor. If you have people living under you, they'll find ways to hit the floor with big stuff so that your floor will shake. And then again, they can hit walls too, because the walls will vibrate up, and so will the sound resonate up. Any possible way they can to try to intimidate you. This is where the witness tampering comes into play. Or people who tell you about one of the ways they communicate, Facebook and Facebook Messenger. Two people who will, who've talked about or even warned you about what's going on, they'll be threatened. And one of the person is a clergyman, and people try to destroy him. And still there's, questions. This was a friend of mine. This is my situation. And there's questions about what happened to his mom. She all of a sudden got sick and passed away. And he was a priest. And somebody threatened him. They said, we want your username and your password, excuse me, for Facebook. And he said, no, it's mine. And they said, well, we need it because we're doing this and this and this to me. And he's like, no. He said, he's my friend. No. He's like, I don't know about, anything, from his life, They're specifically making comments about, oh, he's been married more than once. Did you know that? And he's like, yeah, who cares? And they're like, oh, we have to get him back home, and we're going to do this and this and this, and we don't want him ever to come back. And he's like, do you know how many friends and even family he has here? And they're like, we don't care. Give us the username. He's like, no, I won't be a part of this. And they're like, well, you'll regret it. And he's like, you're threatening me? He said, then he blocked them. And then they hacked his Facebook account. These are not good people. And then another person educated me about the whole secret Facebook groups and all of that stuff that exist in Facebook and Facebook Messenger. And how you would join it, and then you would, say bad things about me, about my youngest daughter, about her mother, and you would, spread around stuff and say statements and all of that in your community. And if you wanted to, you could be involved in bullying them. Well, somebody told me about this, and then all of a sudden, people targeted him in Facebook, and they blocked him. And that was the point when they went from a secret Facebook group to a hidden one, meaning the only way you can get involved is to be invited. And the only way you see it, secret ones, you can look it up, but you only see the group. You may not even see the moderators or the administrators. With a hidden Facebook group, they don't even exist in the system to look them up unless you were invited. You have to be invited in a messenger message, and then you accept. Then you can see the group. That's it. You can see the group and the moderator. Then you have to request to be accepted, and then they will accept you. And if there's any kind of rules regarding your acceptance, then the moderator will admit you to the group. And even then, the moderators can set who sees the members. So in some of these hidden groups, the only people that see the members is the moderator and the owner of the group. And sometimes even the members can't see the owner of the group, only the moderator. So this is what they were doing to target my family. And he told me about it, and then he was banned from the group, and somebody stopped by his family's house. We were overseas then. and threaten their family. So from then that point on, um, he told me, he's like, we can't be involved in this. He's like, honestly, um, they're from a very, I'll say, influential and very well-known family, and they're not billionaires, but they're middle class, and the kind of people that don't normally get scared. But he told me, he's like, these people kind of scare me, and he's like, so I can't tell you any more about this. Um, he said, because I've been banned and blocked too, and I've been threatened, to not talk to you about this stuff. If they see me talking to you, they better watch out. So, I still talk to his mom and his aunt all the time, but it's because we shopped at their store. So this is what happens when people go against the beast. But so you're kept financially captive in so many different ways, and people are threatened, and they're trying to destroy your life and your health because they hack everything. So they can simulate you, they can ghost you. You think you're getting called by your doctor, and you're not. It's a ghosted number. They can hack your records with your doctor, with the VA, or they can block you from accessing them, especially if you're on a simulator. And they can even mess with your VA disability claim with Social Security and basically hijack it. Go to Social Security pretending they're you. Again, this happened to me. And get the claim canceled. Denied based on cancellation, based on not applying. Don't ask me how that works out, but that's what it said on the letter. And and also based on their conversation on a Saturday with me. Social Security is not open on Saturdays, so that's just crazy as heck. Special meeting or something? I don't know, but it's on their letterhead, and it doesn't look like it's fake. It looks real. And then you can't forget a VA claim 2 years ago that was canceled. It was put in the intake computer on va.gov, and somebody after 6 months canceled it. No, it's probably around 9 or 10 months. It was just gone. And then your new claim, because you shed so much attention on them through videos, through writing letters to people, through making statements, official statements, and affidavits, now they tamper with your claim through the call center. And they try to set up appointments without consulting you repeatedly. So in the end, the third party health, assessment group drops you as a veteran patient, or they, use new ones that don't answer your calls. Oh yeah, and they'll have you repeat tests that endanger your health. Repeat tests. Every single one of these people want me to do full lung volume. When I do full lung volume, I go into an asthma attack. But they want me to keep doing them. And other stuff. So you see how utterly comprehensive it is when they target people. And, that's why I made this channel. I would like for someday that, leave the videos out there, but to orphan the channel. Just to help other people that are being targeted and destroyed. The good things of being targeted are, it teaches you to be patient. It teaches you to pay even more attention to detail. To even more, use discernment of spirits with the people that you engage. Because as we know, anybody who's studied criminal justice or profiling, the stuff they say on TV is actually true. Predators like to see their handiwork. They like to see the damage. They like to see their targets, their let's not use the word target, their victims suffering. It excites them. They enjoy it. They laugh about it. This is why the most reviled thing in the criminal justice system, and even culturally, is a serial rapist, because they get a kick out of this stuff. Serial robbers, especially serial armed robbers, another most vile thing culturally, because these are people that cross boundaries and they enjoy the victimization of others. And then we can't forget the good old worldwide favorite, the serial killer, the greatest boundary crosser and greatest enigma of how people like this can exist. That's why people are fascinated with them worldwide. Worldwide. People are fascinated with them. Because humanly, we can't fathom how people so evil and so destructive could exist. So, a lot of our perpetrators surround us. We've been surrounded by people. We found that the new people that live downstairs, I think they're still there, are connected to the old people that lived underneath of us, who are racist extremists, and they have stalked my family to medical clinics, through daycares. Let's see where else. Multiple places. Let's see, at the stores we shop at. And we can't forget around our home. Some of the same methods of torturing us the new people do, obviously because they know the old people. Jacking up the heat, directing it downstairs to a certain room. That way, the rooms we live in are hotter than heck, which also helps with the financial imprisonment, because we have to jack up our air conditioning on a 2 kilowatt condenser. Actually, it's not a condenser. I guess it would be a compressor. No, I think those are condensers. But anyway, they're 2 kilowatts. Which adds up. But that's like about 25 cents a minute. No, I mean 25 cents an hour. And that's also if they don't damage the coolant line, the copper coolant line. That way it doesn't blow cold air. That happened last year. And then the year before, they damaged the switch, so we couldn't, outside, there's a little circuit breaker, they messed with that, so it wouldn't come on. So, these are all of the ways that you are targeted. Oh, then we can't forget the new people in the building work at the VA. They arrived around the time that all the exams started for my compensation claim, and all of the nonsense with these companies that say I'm their patient now, and they won't connect with me at voicemail, or they set appointments without even talking to me. They require exams and tests that the VA has already done. Some things aren't going to change. Oh yeah, well, hey, you never know. Maybe your full lung volume will be worse on that day, so then you'll get a higher rating. I'm not interested in lying to the VA to get money or looking worse than I really am. I want, an accurate measurement of my health. I'm not in this to make money. I'm in this to get better and have income while I'm getting better, because the ultimate goal for me is to get off welfare. I want to run my businesses. I want to enjoy life. Even if I have, less abilities than I used to. The object is not to jump into a hospital bed and have a caregiver and have somebody else control my income because I'm bedridden. Then I lose my children, then I lose my weapons, and then I go to a nursing home where all the money goes to some fat cat. All he does is use veterans for cash. And may even use them, to promote their church. I've known people like that. They use veterans to promote their church because they're involved in some church group. Veteran on death's bed is baptized in, blah, 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 in Jesus' name. I've seen it. Yeah. Oh, we've been taking care of him. He doesn't have any family. He's alone. He was depressed. He was in sin. I've seen it. I would not end up like that. Not by my will. Taking advantage of people. Especially elder veterans. It makes me sick to my stomach, honestly. This is the work of the devil. It's not the work of Christ. Christ brings us through the Holy Spirit to repentance, to forgiveness, to renewal, to remission of sins, to a righteous life, to empowerment. Not the opposite. Never.